Welcome to Politics for Patriots. Here's your host, the eviscerator of progressive nonsense, the executioner of imbecility, and the grim reaper of BS, Eddie Zipper.
Welcome to episode 86 of the Politics for Patriots podcast. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you listening. Please subscribe on iTunes, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts, or just say to Alexa, Alexa, play the Politics for Patriots podcast, and Alexa will say to you,
damn baby, you have good taste in podcasts.
And never forget that every single time you subscribe to a conservative podcast, a liberal somewhere sheds a tear.
Your tears are so yummy and sweet.
So how was your week? I hope you had a great one, but whether you did or you didn't, chances are good that your week was loads better than Joe Biden's. Joe Biden had pretty much the worst week a person campaigning for president could possibly have. If Ben & Jerry's made a flavor called the week Biden just had, it would taste like cabbage and failure. The dude is an absolute gaffe machine. If he wasn't a folksy guy with a big toothy smile, he would have gone nowhere in politics. The guy is all smile, no substance. He's trying to play the part of a 2019 Democrat, and it's not coming off as believable at all. He's simply not believable as a 2019 Democrat. He doesn't know the right things to say. He doesn't know how to pander to left-wing progressives. Now, he's trying really hard, but it's not coming off just right.
My fellow Americans, as a young boy, I dreamed of being a baseball.
Biden is a guy of zero substance, and I'm going to guess that he's not very disciplined either. And it's not simply a guess. There's evidence out there that he lacks the discipline. All right, check out this moment from the most recent Democratic debate. This is his closing statement. The closing statement is the thing you get to prepare. You get to write it ahead of time. You get to know exactly what is in it. You get to practice exactly how you're going to deliver every single word of it. It's the 1 minute of the entire debate that should unfold exactly the way you planned. And here's what Biden did with his one prepared minute.
Go to Joe 30330 and help me in this fight. Thank you.
What he actually needed you to do is pick up your cell phone and text the word Joe to 30330. But he literally has no idea of that. He thinks Joe 30330 is his website. How did he get all the way to saying these words in front of millions of people without knowing what they were or what they meant? How are you this far along in the campaign and you don't even know the basics, the very, very basics of your own digital strategy? The answer is that Biden's job is to be the folksy Rust Belt guy with the big toothy smile who says malarkey. He's not smart, and he's not disciplined. He's the opposite of disciplined. He's an absolute gaffe machine. One of his former presidential runs bit the dust because he was plagiarizing speeches, and not just the words of the speeches, but the mannerisms of the speeches. But this week he managed to out-Biden Biden. He was out there committing unforced errors at an unbelievable pace. He had a very bad week. All right, Biden began the week by saying that the mass shootings in El Paso and Dayton were in Houston and Michigan. He said the tragic events in Houston today and also in Michigan the day before. Now, it's not that big a deal to get the places wrong. But why are they way wrong, way off, a full day later? Now, the media likes to ignore most of Biden's bumbling. They just, it's just Biden being Biden. Let's not talk about it. Right? Biden makes a mistake. They report it because they have to, but then they're like,
No, go past this part. In fact, never play this again.
As a matter of fact, I am going to go ahead and take a guess that is what the control room at MSNBC and CNN sound like every time a Democrat makes a mistake. Now, this is the same mainstream media that went absolutely berserk when President Trump accidentally said Toledo instead of Dayton in his address to the nation. He said Dayton several times, and then at the end of the speech, he accidentally said Toledo. So it was clearly just a slip, wrong wording in the teleprompter, no big deal. But Biden got the places way off. Houston and Michigan the day before. That's what he said. Where did that come from? The El Paso shooting was on August 3rd, and the Dayton shooting was on August 4th. He thinks it was Michigan and then Houston. So I'm not blowing this out of proportion. What I think is important is the response to these tragic events. I don't think, if people make a mistake talking about them, I don't think that they did it intentionally. It could happen to anyone. I get that. But when I look at the entire week that Biden had, it looks as though he can't get basic information right. There seems to be a pattern of confusion surrounding him. So it's not just this. What else happened this week? He told a crowd in Iowa that Democrats are great and special because we choose truth over facts. We choose truth over facts. Right? No big deal. That one is mostly just funny. Then a couple days ago, this happens to him again. And he calls Theresa May, the erstwhile Prime Minister of Great Britain, he called her Margaret Thatcher. And I'm not telling you old news, this happened again. Right? It happened to him back in May. Now it has happened to him again. He called her Margaret Thatcher again. Right, now alone, that's still mostly funny, no big deal, who cares? So then Thursday, he says, poor kids are just as talented as white kids. Yikes. Obviously, he did not mean to say that. I'm not implying that Joe Biden meant to say this at all. Nobody thinks that he said that on purpose. Nobody in their right mind would say something like that on purpose. But where does a slip up like that come from? This one is a little more serious than the others because one has to ask whether or not this slip up reveals a hidden bias. All right, if this had been a Trump slip up, the media would not only be asking that, they would have gone full on Chernobyl. Okay? Headlines would have been like, Trump makes white supremacist remarks, GOP slow to condemn. Instead, because a Democrat did it, the headlines are more like, Biden makes tiny mistake, Republicans pounce. Whatever, I'm just sitting here asking, why can't this guy get the right words out of his mouth like ever? Alright, but then the most interesting thing that Biden did this week, I saw yesterday. Alright, yesterday Biden plopped a big cherry on top of the gibberish sundae that he's been making all week long. Alright, the video of this was released by Turning Point USA, and I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I don't know why they didn't just share the video footage. They edited it into this they just edited it in a ridiculous way in order to dramatize it. They added in like sound effects, and Turning Point USA does get on my nerves sometimes. It's an organization that constantly overreaches. It's an organization that doesn't seem to value truth very much, and they don't even seem to get what the really interesting part of their own video is. So here's what happened in the video. Biden is surrounded by media in a very tight crowd when a student reporter comes up to him and she asks, Vice President Biden, how many genders are there? And it's super important for him to get the answer to that right, because if you get the answer to a question like that wrong,
you'd be creating a space for violence to happen.
So she asks him, Vice President Biden, how many genders are there? And Biden responds, there are at least 3. The student reporter asks if he can name them. And he gets mad and says, don't play games with me, kid. She starts to leave. Biden reaches out and grabs her by the arm to stop her. At which point she turns back around and he says, I was the first to support marriage. Okay, now Turning Point USA thinks this is a big gotcha because Joe Biden grabbed her arm. And this is what Turning Point USA does. They use left-wing tactics against Democrats constantly. A Democrat touches somebody's arm, and Turning Point pretends it's assault. Okay, the arm grab is the least interesting thing about this video, but it is full of interesting things. Right, if you can remember back to the 2016 election, Trump's campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski, grabbed a female reporter by the arm just like this, and the media went nuts over the footage. It was like days of, look at Corey Lewandowski assault this woman. Right, I think the police actually charged Lewandowski with assault, if I remember correctly, and then it got dropped. But it was stupid then, and it's stupid now. If you thought Corey Lewandowski did nothing wrong, that is how you should feel about Biden grabbing this girl's arm. If you thought Corey Lewandowski assaulted the reporter, okay, then you should think Joe Biden assaulted this young lady. But that's not how it works, right? Instead, politics decide how we see the arm grab. And we see it differently when Joe Biden does it than when Corey Lewandowski does it because we might agree with one and not the other. That's not the right, principled way to think about these things, in my opinion. I don't think anybody ever wins a battle when they're that transparently hypocritical. So I didn't think it was assault when Corey Lewandowski did it. I don't think it's any kind of assault now that Joe Biden did it. So like I said, I think that the arm grab is the least interesting thing in the video, even though Turning Point USA thought it was the most interesting thing in the video. But what's interesting is what went through Joe Biden's mind during this entire exchange. And it's pretty obvious what that was. So here's what happened. It starts with what a completely insincere, phony Joe Biden is being.
My fellow Americans, as a young boy, I dreamed of being a baseball.
He's going around the country pretending to be someone that he clearly is not. He is trying to appeal to the progressive left-wing cuckoos by pretending that he too is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. So the young lady asked Joe Biden how many genders there are. And it causes a little bit of panic in Joe Biden because why? Because he doesn't know the answer. At least he doesn't know the woke answer that he's supposed to have. He probably honestly thinks the answer is 2, but he can't say that, right? Because if you say that there are 2 genders,
you'd be creating a space for violence to happen.
So what's going to happen? The left is going to destroy him if he says that there are 2 genders. But he's panicking because he has absolutely no clue how many genders he's supposed to think that there are. Now, if you want to be woke and win the Democratic primary, the actual answer they're looking for is that gender is a spectrum, meaning there are no, quote, number of genders, there's just a spectrum, and a non-binary person can fall anywhere along that spectrum that they fall. But Biden doesn't know that. Why not? Because he's only playing the character of woke progressive Joe. And Joe, being this woke progressive guy, is just as fake as the alien from outer space pretending that he dreamed of being a baseball player when he was a young boy. I just love that clip. As a young boy, I dreamed of being a baseball. It's funny every time to me. I don't know. Oh, it's not as funny as the Futurama alien who says, why does Ross, the largest friend, not simply eat the other 5? All right, so back to the story. Biden is now a deer in headlights. Because he's been asked this question of how many genders there are, he becomes a deer in headlights because he doesn't know the woke answer. Oh, geez, how many genders am I supposed to think that there are? So he goes with 3. I don't know why. Maybe he was thinking male, female, and other. Maybe he was thinking about how many bathrooms are needed to accommodate. I have no idea why he went with 3. All he knows is that 2 ain't the right answer. So he says 3. Then she asks what they are. And that's when he gets pissed off. He can name male and female, but he has no idea what the third gender he believes there is actually is, because he doesn't really believe that there's a third gender. It's all a lie. So he could have saved himself if he had known the term non-binary, but clearly he did not. So instead of answering, he got pissed off at the girl, at the reporter, for asking him the question. And so he goes super tough guy on what appears to be a teenage girl. She's a college student, like a college reporter, so maybe she's 20 years old. Either way, he demeans her. He goes tough guy on her and he says, "Don't play games with me, kid." That's the part of the video that really looks bad for Biden. Much worse than grabbing her arm because he wants to tell her something. That's not bad. But going tough guy on a young lady because she asked you a question you don't know the answer to, that is not a good look. I mean, imagine a powerful, grown-up man giving a young lady who is a college reporter this tough guy routine, trying to intimidate her. That's not a good look. Just answer the question if you know the answer, Joe, and ignore her if you don't. Why are you trying to get tough with her and intimidate her? Why are you being a jerk about it? So then she starts to walk away, and that's when he panics. He grabs her by the arm to bring her back. This reporter, oh no, is going to go tell everyone that I don't know how many genders there are. That's going to set off the LGBTs, right? That group is going to be mad at me because in the mind of a Democrat, there are no people. There are no individuals. There are just a bunch of groups that you have to pay homage to. And Biden is worried that he has just said the wrong thing and insulted this group. Now he needs to pay homage. So, Biden has made a big mistake that he thinks will make him look bad with this group. He failed to know how many genders there are. So he grabs the young lady by her arm and he says, "I was the first to support marriage," meaning same-sex marriage. Because in his mind, that's how you fix the faux pas that you just made toward the LGBT community. The bottom line on the video is this. Biden was pissed off because he doesn't know how many genders he's supposed to think that there are. Because he's unprepared and because he is inauthentic. You can be successful as an inauthentic person, especially in politics, but only if you are prepared. Sorry about that. You can only play a character if you know everything about that character. Joe is playing the character of woke progressive Joe, but he doesn't know how many genders woke progressive Joe thinks there are. Leftism is like science fiction. It begins with what we call world building. When someone writes a fictional sci-fi novel, the first thing they have to do is teach you how the world of the novel works. Because it's not the real world. So it can't just be automatically understood. The rules have to be explained to you. Okay, the world building comes first in those books. You learn the rules of the world, and then you can enjoy a story about the world. And leftism works the exact same way. You have to learn the rules of the leftist world, and then you can exist in that world. Right? Pick up the first Harry Potter book. Chapter 1. Weird things happen in the world because magic exists in this universe. Some people are magic by birth, and some people are not. Very British right there. When you are magic, you go to a special school because you don't need to know math or science. Okay? Now you know the rules, enjoy the story. That's what leftism is. It's a big sci-fi novel. They build the fake world for you and teach you the rules of the fake world. After they do that, you behave how you are now programmed to behave in the phony world that they've created. You show up to left-wing Hogwarts, and they put the sorting hat on you, and the sorting hat shouts female, or LGBTQ, or black, or whatever group identity that they're going to use to pigeonhole you and marginalize you. Biden and a lot of other progressive politicians are faking most of this. Because a lot of what the left believes is stuff that nobody believed 10 years ago. Okay, I read a CNN report where sources close to President Obama are saying he's angry at how left the party is going in these primaries. So when Obama thinks, hey, you seem like a crazy left-winger, there's a good chance that you definitely seem like a crazy left-winger. Obama telling you that you're too left-wing is like Michael Moore telling you, hey man, you need to hit the gym. Okay, so the young female reporter exposed Biden faking something. That's the part of the video that is fantastically interesting. And then what happens, we look at this whole week that Biden's had and how the media has glossed over. I mean, when Trump does these things, they explode. It's like wall-to-wall coverage, right? Trump makes the tiniest mistake, and the whole media is like jumping on the telegraph like, doot, 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 to all our ships at sea, to all our ships at sea, Donald Trump has made a small mistake. They package whatever tiny mistake it was, they package it up like, oh my God, this is the most important thing that has ever happened in American history. They're like, Trump said a wrong word. I don't want to overstate this, but the world is on fire and we are all going to die. But if you're a Democrat, specifically if you're the Democrat who's in first place right now, according to the polls in the Democratic primary, then the media, the same media that goes Chernobyl over what Trump says, they're going to give you a pass. They're going to cover for you. They're going to be like, oh, yeah, Biden made some kind of little mistake. You know, I wouldn't worry too much about it. We're not going to play the video. Just...
No, go past this. Past this part. In fact, never play this again.
So the media is protecting Biden from these things that he's doing constantly. They're not questioning it on a systematic level. Hey, why does Joe Biden make a huge mistake every single day? Why does he make an unforced error every single day? They're not going to do it. They don't want to damage him, right? There's a good chance he's going to be the nominee. They don't want to do any damage to him because they want him to beat Trump when that time comes if he's the nominee. Election time is when it can be detrimental to have the media in your corner. When you're a conservative, it seems like, oh, the media is against me. This sucks all the time. It doesn't suck all the time. There are times when you do not want the media in your corner. It is bad. It is detrimental to have the media in your corner. So they actually hurt the Democrats in situations like this. Okay? See, if the media vetted these candidates the way that they vet Republicans, Biden's campaign would be flatlining and a worthier candidate would rise to the top. A candidate who is at least prepared. Probably not authentic, probably not any good ideas, but is at least prepared. A candidate who can go 5 minutes without jamming their entire foot into their mouth. But that doesn't happen. The media doesn't do that. They don't do the vetting. Instead, they protect. And they're protecting Biden because he's winning, and that's terrible. Terrible for the Democratic Party. If they want to help the Democratic Party, if the media wants to help the Democratic Party, they should allow the competition to play out and allow the strongest person to rise to the top organically. That person stands a much better chance of beating Donald Trump in the end than the person who got there because the media protected them. But the media doesn't get that because their instinct is to try to pick the winners and the losers, which hurts the competition. It's an innate flaw, really, in left-wing ideology, the idea that I'm smarter and better than the masses. I went to an important school and live in a really nice apartment in a big, important city. Therefore, I need to be the decider of everything. Right? If Biden makes it into the general election, and I don't think he will, because the media can only cover for you so much. People see these mistakes. People are going to say, this guy is not a winner, and he doesn't know what he's talking about. But if he does become the nominee, he is going to get steamrolled by Donald Trump. And who will the Democrats have to blame for that? The answer is the mainstream media because they are not vetting the candidates. It seems the Democratic Party, and I'm going to say something nice about the Democratic Party, which is just super rare. Rarely ever do I say anything nice about the DNC. the Democratic Party, but here it comes. The Democratic Party learned a lesson from the 2016 primaries. They actually learned a lesson from the 2016 election. They don't learn a lot of lessons. They're not the sharpest tools in the shed, though they are tools. But what they learned was don't try to control the competition. Together with the media, last time around, they made sure that Hillary Clinton got the nomination. It was a coronation. They hid the entire primary. They're like, okay, we're going to have one debate. It's going to be on Sunday morning, and we're going to play it on channel 389, the debate channel. Okay, I'm exaggerating, but you get the idea. They tried to hide the whole process. They wanted Hillary Clinton. We know they did some other things, but I won't get into all that. We've already talked about all that a million times. But what happened? All this trying to decide the winners and losers blew up in their face. A competition would have yielded much better results, and they know it. Now what do they have? Now they've changed. Now they have a real huge competition. They have 1,000 debates, 20 contestants in each round. They learned that competition yields the results that they want, and that stifling competition yields Donald Trump becoming president of the United States. But the media didn't learn that lesson. The media still wants to pick and choose. And that is going to lead to the Democratic Party having another presidential candidate that isn't up to snuff. So, if you're a conservative or a Republican, be glad that the media is not on your side, because their help is often a hindrance. All right, that's all I got for today. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, please subscribe on iTunes, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please leave a review on iTunes. That will be super helpful. Sometimes I own people on Twitter, and they retaliate by going and giving my podcast 1 star. So if you liked it, you can go give it more than 1 star. All right, that's it. That's all I got for today. I'm out of here.
I dreamed of being a baseball.
You just listened to Politics for Patriots with Eddie Zipper. Email the show at patriots@eddiezipper.com and please subscribe.